This is John Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on April the 22nd in the year of our Lord 2026, and I've got some really good information for you tonight. Let me jump over here to Murtech on Rumble. This is my Rumble channel. This is the video we're talking about tonight, episode 1880, 1895. My live stream, it says upcoming, but as you know, you are actually watching it, so let me go ahead and click into this and close out the live chat. Let me slide down here and click the show more button to expand out the description box. Okay, we're going to start off with Dan Bongino, AP for Liberty, Austin Peterson, Kim's Coffee Talk, and wrap it up with Wendy Bell Radio. But before we get into that, I do have some shout outs to give from Gato Maratimo. Just started following my channel. The Tile Guy just started following my channel. Texas Boomer just started following my channel. BHN Norris just started following me. Debian01 just started following my channel. Gary Brown Jr. just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. All right, Never Married commented on my daily news wrap-up. Debbie BS, Viper Senior, and Cottonball 31 commented on my episode 1894. Debbie BS commented on my extra 676B, and Debbie BS commented on my extra 676C. So thank you very much, folks, for your comments. I enjoy reading your feedback, and I definitely appreciate your support. So let me go ahead and give this a thumbs up. Boom. And I have one of those thumbs up icons right down here below the video that you're watching. So, boom, there you go. I gave myself a thumbs up. It's just that easy. You click it and it turns green. It's actually pretty neat. You ought to try it. It's some cool stuff. Okay, let's slide down here and see what Dan Bongino has to say. And folks, the format of my videos are a lot different than other people. I mean, what I do is share information out from other channels. I mean, I'm a dad, 72 years old. We got 5 kids, my wife and I, and the youngest one's 5, the oldest one's 14. So I don't have much time to do a bunch of research. But my point here is to get no nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth out to as many people as I possibly can. I started doing this after Donald Trump was robbed of the election back in 2020. So I'm going on 6 years. I started like in December of 2020, gathering this information and actually promoting other channels that provide you with information that you're not going to get on the mainstream media. The no nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth, you won't find that on the mainstream media or from any Democrat. So that's why I'm sharing this information the way that I do. And we're going to start off with Dan Bongino. It's happening again, episode 2500. Let's see what he has to say.
So that's op number one. Once you see this op, the Doomer op, you can never unsee it. There is a reason people within our tent in Podcastistan and elsewhere want you to believe that nothing is happening. And it's because they have an interest in 2028 in a different candidate other than who's going to take the MAGA mantle. Folks, you will thank me right after the midterms when the presidential primary heats up. When you start to see more of this, nothing is happening, you're going to be like, wow, Bongino's right. All this stuff's happening, and these people keep insisting Donald Trump isn't doing anything or his administration. Why are they doing that? Oh, look, this person's working for said candidate, or this person's working for this group, or this person's getting foreign money. There's a reason. The op is clear. The Doomers throw it out there. The liberal media picks it up. They both want Trump gone. Now, I put this out on my Twitter last night. If you're not following me, I'm at DBongino on X Twitter. Last night, of course, many of you heard about it. If you haven't, it was a huge case. It's been being worked on by a long time at the Department of Justice and FBI. You see, I put more things are happening in all caps. Department of Justice. So it's happening now. Justice Department announced an indictment against the Southern Poverty Law Center for secretly funneling more than $3 million in funds to members of white supremacist and extremist groups. So really, I thought they were. Now, these are allegations. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty. That is how the process works, and I mean it. However, these are very serious allegations. I thought they were fighting extremist groups. The allegations in the report are that they were funding them too at the same time. That's kind of weird. So I just found it awfully interesting. And by the way, I'm just reading news in the media space like you are right now. But I found it awfully weird that this attack timed on Cash about BS stories about they couldn't find him or whatever, he magically disappeared like Casper the Ghost or something. I found the timing of it weird because, you know, a lot of this stuff is going to eventually come out. As a matter of fact, the media report made me believe something was going to come out. So I'm like, this is kind of strange. So then I noted this on yesterday's show where I said to you, starting to make sense now. I put it out on Twitter. Flag it, I noted, Nanli Marie Karasimi, an account I really like. The hit on Kash Patel is going to make a lot of sense very soon. There's a reason the media and Democrats want him out now. That didn't take long. All starting to come together. Now let's talk about another op you all should recognize by now because it's pretty clear. This is the op where these people randomly show up at rallies. They show up at rallies and they pretend to be part of the MAGA coalition. They have signs like, "We love Hitler," the Nazis are the best. They have signs like, "We hate black people," or whatever. And you're like, wow, who the hell is this guy? And ironically, it's the MAGA people kicking them out of the rallies. Like, hey man, that's not our thing. Like, I don't know. You must be some kind of lefty. Now, conservative activists and MAGA folks have been suspicious about this for years because the left constantly lies about these things. If it looks like an op, it walks like an op and smells like an op, maybe it's an op. And one of the most significant left-wing ops of all time in politics, up there with the Russia hoax, was the Fine People hoax. Remember the Charlottesville rally that ended in tragedy? Remember afterwards, Donald Trump, I will play for you this video in a second so you could see it yourself, lefties. This may be the first time you hear this. Donald Trump gives a quick speech from Trump Tower about this. You're going to see a couple of his folks in the background. And Donald Trump is asked about the Charlottesville rally after the tearing down of statues. And Donald Trump clearly says that there were fine people on both sides. But he says at one point, I am not talking about this group of people. Now, lefties, I know you've heard the fine people. He called white supremacists fine people. Did he? I know many of you were hearing this for the first time. Check this out.
You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay?
Guy, did you edit that? Did he just say, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and white nationalists? And then he added, just to be clear, he added they should be condemned totally. Did you just make that up? Was that AI? What did he mean? He said it right. What could he possibly mean by that? He's very cryptic, I am not talking about the neo-Nazis and white supremacists who should be condemned completely. I don't know, man. Liberals are like, oh, no, man. That's the first time I heard that. I really can't fix your stupidity. However, now that you know he completely condemned his words, the white supremacists and neo-Nazis, you still going to continue to act like a moron and fall for the op? You can. It's your choice to fall for an op, but just know you're a dipshit. here's Kamala Harris, by the way. I'm going to have more of this tomorrow, too. I just got a lot to get to today. Folks, this is up there with the collusion hoax, the fine people hoax. This was such a pervasive op on the left. Some people actually believed he called white supremacists fine people despite saying the opposite. That Kamala Harris, despite knowing anyone could go and watch the video I just showed you, she knows liberals are dumb and won't do that. So she actually says in a debate, the fine people hoax, knowing no one on the left will look it up because the left lives in the world of stupid ideas. They don't care about reality. You doubt me? Here's the video. Check this out.
Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side.
That came up in the debate. Joe Biden at one point said it was his reason for running. What's the problem with that, ladies and gentlemen in the audience in the chat? The problem is it didn't happen. And it's not just that it didn't happen, that Donald Trump said neo-Nazis and white supremacists were fine people. It's that he said the opposite. I completely condemn them. They knew the op was in full effect. When I say they, the media knew they had a Russia collusion hoax before the Russia collusion hoax. They knew it. And the media could have told you, hey, guys, listen, this isn't real. This is not reality. Donald Trump did not say this. Here's the transcript. And the media played along because it was an op. And a bunch of left-wing dipshits fell for the op because why? Because they wanted to. Because they wanted to believe it, even though it wasn't true. I'm going to lay out for you, now that I'm on the outside as a media commentator, for the nothing is happening doomers and the liberal media folks who lied. I want you to start to put together some pieces now. I've been telling you for the last year, again, that just because you don't see things happening today does not mean they're not happening. You can judge the book in chapter 1 before reading the ending. That's fine. That just makes you look like a buffoon for not reading the whole book, of telling us how the book is good or bad. I want you to remember this one as well. Here is an excellent congressional representative from Texas up on Capitol Hill. Questioning, is it Stuart Whitson? I believe formerly of the FBI. Brandon Gill is asking some very interesting questions about the Southern Poverty Law Center, now under indictment as of yesterday. I want you to pay very close attention to the questions. Check this out.
The FBI utilized a so-called hate map from the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, as it was going after traditional Catholics and labeling them domestic extremists. Do you think that that's an appropriate source?
Absolutely not.
Do you know some of the other groups that the SPLC labels as hate groups or extremist groups?
No, I don't, off the top of my head.
I can name a few. They also name the Alliance Defending Freedom, the Family Research Council, and Moms for Liberty as hate groups as well. Do you find it concerning that they were using that the SPLC as a source?
Yeah, I find it deeply concerning.
Do you think that Catholics who celebrate the traditional Latin Mass are a threat to the American people?
I don't, because I'm one that does that on occasion.
Can you recall, before Joe Biden was in office, any time whenever the FBI specifically targeted a group of Americans solely because of their religious faith?
No.
Do you think there's any evidence to suggest that harassing Catholic Americans keeps Americans safe?
Not at all.
Now do you see what we walked into? The mess we walked into? A generational mess we walked into over there at the FBI? You know, I didn't play that stinger there. Now, I'm just going to show you what happened for the Nothing is Happening, folks. These guys were kind enough to put together a little stinger. This is strictly for the Nothing is Happening, folks. Check this out. So here's a list of things that didn't happen, air quotes, that are in the Nothing is Happening file, pursuant to what I just kind of laid out to you. There was a weird symbiosis between the Southern Poverty Law Center, which has some very serious allegations and is now under indictment, was working with the pre-Trump administration, FBI, on a lot of these groups. That seems awfully weird, doesn't it? Now, does this AP story, Associated Press story, make a little bit of sense? Now, when this happened, again, the Nothing is Happening people ignored it or said it's no big deal. Maybe the big deal's starting to make sense now. Headline, AP, Eric Tucker, October 3rd, 2025. FBI cuts ties with Southern Poverty Law Center and Anti-Defamation League after conservative complaints. AP is framing that wrong. It had very little to do with conservative complaints and a lot to do with what you're starting to see now. But that actually happened. Here are some more things that happened that the Doomers and Lib Media both seem to want to attack you from, the tent on, one from outside, one from inside. Antifa cell members convicted in Prairieland ICE detention center shooting. I thought the Trump administration wasn't going after, corruption in some of these, activist groups that were engaging in violence and fraud. And I thought they weren't doing that. How is it? These were the first Antifa convictions we've seen. Here was another one that the Nothing is Happening crowd missed, in addition to the SPLC indictment. Executive Director of Black Lives Matter, Oklahoma City, charged with wire fraud and money laundering. That happened too. December of 2025. How'd they miss that? The Nothing is Happening crowd. By the way, the liberal media knows it's happening. They just don't like this stuff is happening. They want you to believe all these left-wing groups are just above board all the time and they should never be investigated. And by the way, that goes for any group on any political ideology. You're engaged in wire fraud, corruption, you will be investigated the exact same way. Nobody gets a free pass, unlike the last administration.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause this here. I'm 21 minutes into this hour and 33-minute video. I will include this in my daily news wrap-up so you can see the rest of this. But just what I was telling you before I started this video, folks. The mainstream media and the Democrats are constantly lying to you. They never tell you, rarely ever tell you what's actually going on. They don't. They always put some kind of negative spin towards Donald Trump, the people that want to make America great again, that would like to see America great again, and eliminate all the fraud. They're always putting some kind of lie in there so that you don't actually know what's going on. And that's why I'm sharing this information with you from people like Dan Bongino and Austin Peterson and Kim's Coffee Talk and Wendy Bell. But let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from the Dan Bongino Show. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here. Slide down. I've been doing a little chatting here with Debbie BS and M41 Coco. She's going on a trip this Sunday, so I hope it's a safe trip for her. I wish her well. Okay, let's come down here to Austin Peterson. No tattoo vindication. Pete Davidson burns Spongebob off his arm. Oh, man. That's kind of drastic, don't you think? Let's see what he has to say. And I got this at an interesting part here in his video. So let's take a listen. Oh, man, sorry. I got the wrong link in there. I'll have to let me get us over here to my web page, because here we go. Austin Peterson. I'll fix that in the description box. I don't know how I got the wrong link in there, but here we are.
We love to get rated by our friends, especially Murtok, which has been sharing our videos as well out there in the ether. So we're grateful to have you here, and we hope you enjoy the show today. I was just right in the middle of an advertisement. I hope you don't mind. The Wake Up America show is funded by the support of viewers and listeners just like you. Whenever you make a donation through a Rumble ramp, you actually are working towards a bonus content. We have unlockables. And because we love America and we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States, we've been producing Lego-styled mini documentaries about heroes of the American Revolution. So whenever we raise $100 on this show through either purchases at our shop or in Rumble Rants or gift subs, once we raise $100, instead of watching commercials when we go to get a guest, you get to watch our fun little mini documentaries, and people love to see them. So if you make a contribution, we hope you'll stick around and enjoy the bonus content that you helped to unlock. And I'm Austin Peterson. This is the Wake Up America show. Click the like button. And again, if today is the first time that you have ever watched us, click the follow button as well.
I just want to make sure I understand. You're alleging that the Southern Poverty Law Center was paying the leaders of KKK and other groups to continue their operations? Is that?
I'm not alleging it. The grand jury returned an indictment that says that. And so what the investigation found, according to the indictment that was returned today, is that they were paying. So Southern Poverty Law Center is raising money, asking folks to give them money to dismantle racism. And over a very long period of time, they were using some of the money they raised from donors to pay to, they call them field, basically to informants, for information, for access, to just pay them for certain to do certain things. And so, yes, that's exactly what the indictment charges.
Let's go back to August 11th, 2017, Charlottesville, Virginia. The sun has gone down and hundreds of men are moving across the lawn of the University of Virginia carrying tiki torches. They're chanting. They've been organized. Somebody booked the buses. Somebody ran the logistics. Somebody was in the leadership chat group coordinating exactly who was going to show up, where they were going to stand, and how they were going to get there. And according to a federal indictment handed down yesterday by a grand jury in Montgomery, Alabama, that somebody had a prepaid debit card in his pocket that had been loaded with money routed through a shell company. The shell company was called Fox Photography. The money came from donors. And the organization that sent it, the organization that loaded the card, created that shell company and directed that man to attend that rally was the Southern Poverty Law Center. The same Southern Poverty Law Center that would spend the following week raising millions of dollars off the violence that occurred there. Now, just let that land for just a second there. All right, the indictment is 11 counts. Wire fraud, bank fraud, conspiracy to commit money laundering. And the allegation that is at the center of all of this between 2014 and 2023 is that the SPLC secretly funneled more than $33 million in donated money to at least 8 individuals embedded in violent extremist groups. The Ku Klux Klan, the United Klans of America, whose Imperial Wizard was on the SPLC's payroll, the National Alliance, a neo-Nazi organization whose affiliate collected more than $1 million over 9 years, the Aryan Nations, the National Socialist Movement. Now, to hide the payments, the SPLC opened bank accounts under fictitious names: Fox Photography, Rare Books Warehouse, Center Investigative Agency, and ran the money through prepaid cards so it couldn't be traced back to them. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche stood at a podium in Washington and said it directly. The SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was manufacturing the extremism that it purports to oppose. Manufacturing. So that is a federal prosecutor using a specific word on purpose. The SPLC was not monitoring hate. It was not passively observing it. According to the United States government, it was paying for it. And then it was raising money off of it. The donor in Minnesota who wrote a check to fight the Klan was funding the Klan. The fundraising letter that described an urgent and growing threat of organized white supremacy in America, that threat was being kept warm on the SPLC's own dime. This is not a story about a nonprofit that just makes some accounting mistakes and Ilhan Omar suddenly is a millionaire overnight. This isn't a story about an organization that needed the product it was selling fear about and went out, bought more of it when the supply ran low. Right? When the demand for racism outstrips the supply, someone will manufacture more of it. Yesterday, a federal grand jury put that sentence on the record, and we're just getting started. So let's picture, if you will, a corporate boardroom, say somewhere in America, circa 2019, 2020, 2021. A chief diversity officer is standing in front of a slide deck. The slide has a map on it. It's a color-coded map, hundreds of dots scattered across the country. Each dot is an organization that the Southern Poverty Law Center has designated as a hate group. The presenter points at the map and says, "This is the threat environment that your employees here are operating in. This is why we need this program. This is why we need this budget for our DEI programs." The map has been called the SPLC Hate Map, and it's been cited as authoritative by Fortune 500 companies, federal agencies, and university administrators, bank compliance departments, and media outlets across the country have been using this for the better part of 3 decades. And according to a federal indictment, that map was being populated in part by the people that the SPLC was paying. So you have to understand what this means for the industry that grew up around this demand for racism. I mean, the SPLC, Juicy Smollett got nothing on the SPLC.
Literally coming out of the fields carrying torches.
Coming out of the fields with torches lighted.
Walking out of the fields in Charlottesville carrying torches.
Damn those tiki torches.
Damn those tiki torches. Exactly, Laura Ingram. Thank you. Damn those tiki torches. American corporations pour billions of dollars into diversity and inclusion programs over the past decade. And this is the credible, documented, authoritative existence of an organized hate threat in America. The SPLC supplied that documentation that underpinned all of those programs. Their hate map was the evidence that the threat was real, that it was growing, that it was urgent, and that without intervention, it would show up in your workforce and your supply chain and your brand reputation. You can find videos of these corporations, the heads of these corporations saying, if you don't do something, if you don't lean on these people, then they will. As a matter of fact, I think I have that clip, and I had put it in a coffee commercial that I made. This is going to be kind of awkward, but I'm going to try and transfer you to is this the one that's connected? Yeah, I think this is it. Listen.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your profile?
Oh.
No, I don't have it anymore. But it was the CEO of BlackRock saying something like this. If you don't lean on some of these people.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause this here. Great information, folks. He always has good stuff. Let me click on the Rumble link. Has a show Monday through Friday. All right. Here we go. Clicking on the Rumble link does take us to the video that I shared with you from AP for Liberty, Austin Peterson. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here, and Foxy Grandma has joined us. Thank you very much. Let me jump down here and see what Kim's Coffee Talk has to say. Nice little title here. He said, she said, they said, we said. And then today's date, and say what? Okay, well, let's check this out. I've got this, started this out at an interesting point as well. And amazingly, I have the right link in the description box. And I did update the link for AP for Liberty. You might have to refresh your screen if you want to get the correct link there, but I've got it. Give credit where credit's due. Okay, let's get into this.
For sure. Yo, I got some good news. I got some good news in case you missed it. Alan Dershowitz, America's attorney out there. Alan Dershowitz, y'all, he has officially ditched the Democratic Party after 67 years. Now, This is pretty profound for Alan Dershowitz. I don't know. Does this speak volumes that he might be ready to speak volumes about some things he knows out there, and he's switching gears right now to be protected? I'm not sure. Murtek has raided the stream. Good morning, Raiders. We appreciate y'all coming on in this morning. Thank you for that raid. It sure is. Yeah, the pollen is still around too, and it's still around so heavy because we haven't had anything to wash it off. It's so bad. I need such a good heavy rain here. Don't forget, your army dog is not suicidal. You're gonna be a tattletailer for the IRS over at the Hillary Clinton camp. You might be putting that out to let everybody know. Definitely not suicidal. Anyway, so Alan Dershowitz, he registers Republican, y'all, blasting his own party. He's blasting their anti-Israel turn and their radicalism as a threat to America. Y'all, America's attorney right there, America bad guy's attorney, just say, y'all can say what you want. But Alan Dershowitz, that is, to me, that's profound. I would love to hear what Alan Dershowitz really wants to say to us about it, because it's pretty profound. He says he believes that the Democratic here. Let's just play it. Let's just do it. Let's bring it on. Come on, kid, do it. Move a little slow this morning. That's what happens when you're not jacked up on caffeine. Here we go.
He says, I believe that the Democratic Party's hostility to Israel represents a deeper and more dangerous shift away from the center and toward a radical approach that is bad for America and the free world. So I intend to work hard to prevent the Democrats from gaining control of the House and Senate. And I urge those who share my concerns about the increasing influence of radicalism in the Democratic Party to vote, campaign, and contribute for continued Republican control of Congress. Yep.
Good for him. You know, he's at.
Wow. Alan Dershowitz. Wow. Good for him. And calling on the continued control by the Republican Party over here. You know, that's saying a lot. I mean, maybe he will be just one of many that might be making that switch over to the Republican Party. And for him to come out and say this, you know, at a time right now where the mainstream media is working overtime to convince you and me that that our country is absolutely against what our president is doing, that his approval ratings are going through the floor, and, you know, it's not looking good. Alan Dershowitz, America's Democratic attorney over there, switches parties and tells America, please continue to keep the Republican hold of Congress and Senate. That's pretty darn, y'all. Never trust a defector. Oh, come on now, Ronan, you're messing up my story over here.
You know, I agree with her there. I'm going to pause this for just a little bit. She's definitely some good information. She always puts out great information. She has an early morning show as well. So I rated her show because of that, because of the good information that she provides. And yes, this Alan Dershowitz, I mean, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was a Democrat. He's now on the Trump team. Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat, ran for president on the Democrat ticket. Didn't make it through the primaries because Joe Biden stole it away from her and the others. I don't know if she would have made it, but there wasn't a chance for her or anyone else except for the puppet Joe Biden. But yeah, this is hopefully we can get the fraud out of the elections coming this November. And enough people that have said, okay, I've had enough with the Democrat Party, that we can keep control of Congress, the House, and the Senate, and move forward from there. If we can get the fraud out of the elections, it's going to be a long time before the Democrats get back in control. And if you notice, some of them are actually changing their philosophy a little bit. You know, not necessarily agreeing with Donald Trump, but not jumping on board with, you know, the transgender thing and everything else, the fraud. That, oh, we can't stop the fraud. Oh, okay, yeah, we can't investigate the fraud. Some of them are actually, well, Fetterman is one of them, but the senator from Pennsylvania. But slowly but surely, there's some of them that are actually coming to their senses. Let's continue with Kim.
One nation under God, y'all. Here's a great shirt today. How you like it? How you like me now? Never trust a defector. Well, you know, with Alan Dershowitz making the switch, you know, like he's doing, it's interesting because this announcement was made yesterday, and he came out. Listen, he's been a Harvard law professor and a constitutional attorney for all these years, 67 years. And he's just recently registered as a Republican. It's got a lot of people talking over there. And he says, you know, he comes right out and he says, I'm going to be supporting the Republicans in the midterm election. I'm hoping that the Republicans maintain control of both the House and the Senate. And then he goes on to say, and oh, he couldn't say it any sweeter. He says, the last thing I want is Chuck Schumer to be head of the Senate, or Liz Warren to be a chairperson of a committee, or AOC to be a chairperson of a committee. He says, that's the last thing I want to see. And he goes on, he says, the Democrats have not only lost my votes, but they have made me an enemy. Essentially by how they've moved away from American values, Israeli values, and values of decency, he continued. He says, I'm not a Republican, but I am a very anti-Democrat. I'm against the Democratic Party. I will do anything to see Ramadani defeated. That's huge. Wow, I would say, Alan Dershowitz, perhaps you could pick up the phone and call all your other homies and see if they're all on, you know, of the same persuasion. And maybe you could get them to, you know, start having their voices heard like this. You know, Dershowitz says, hey, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I started campaigning for the party's local candidates as a teenager in Brooklyn, New York, of all places. He's been a registered Democrat for 67 years. He says he's one hand the number of Republicans I've supported for any office. He said, I still disagree strongly with the GOP on abortion, the separation of church and state, immigration, healthcare, and taxes, among other things. Yet I've decided to bite the bullet and register as a Republican. Interesting. That almost sounds like a backhanded compliment. Like, let me slap you and compliment you, right? So he goes on to say he believes that the Democratic Party's hostility to Israel represents a more dangerous shift away from the city and toward a radical approach that is bad for America and the free world. He says, so I intend to work hard to prevent the Democrats from gaining control of the House and Senate, and I urge those who share my concerns about the increasing influence of radicalism in the Democratic Party to vote, campaign, and contribute for continued Republican control of Congress. He says, I will contribute money to Republican candidates, campaign for them, make speeches at Republican events, and urge pro-Israel Americans to change party affiliation or at least vote against Democrats. Until something changes, I will vote Republican for representative, senator, and president.
Wow.
He says, I wish I could designate myself as a foreign policy Republican, but there's no such option. So I have to go whole hog. By registering as a Republican rather than as an independent, maybe I can have some influence on moving some Republican policies towards the center. Towards the center. He says, I've given up on trying to change the Democratic Party. He says, my main goal is to send a message that many traditional Democrat voters can't accept what it is becoming, a replica of left-wing European parties that are hurting their countries. Man, Alan Dershowitz throwing it down. Well, and you're right. You know, another one pushing for rhinos. Well, you know what? In this instance, if he's able to tell people, look, what the Democratic Party has become is just a bunch of you crazy a-holes, you know, that have infiltrated things and trying to put America in the position that we're watching Europe in now, and in positions they can't get out of. They're being overrun and infiltrated by folks that are not coming to America to be their best and bring their best.
Absolutely. Absolutely right. And again, that's another thing that some of the Democrats have kind of backed off on that a little bit. But they haven't backed off on the fraud. They're still pushing that. So hopefully Alan Dershowitz is being genuine here, sincere. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Kim's Coffee Talk. I am following her channel. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Let's jump back here and see what Wendy Bell has to say. All right. The Firefighter Arsonist. Interesting. Let's check this out. Wow. Yes, I've heard that there's some investigation going into that, and that's not all that it was cracked up to be. Fraud, election fraud. We think we talked about that earlier. Okay, let's see what Wendy has to say. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know that, yeah, Wendy had no sound. I mean, that hasn't happened in a long time. But let me jump back over here. I don't know why Wendy was having a problem with the audio. Okay, so let me get this started here.
In person yesterday.
Let me get it back
here. The answers, the way people responded to this question.
All right, here we go. Okay, sorry again. I could hear it in my headphones, but obviously the audio wasn't being put out by Rumble.
Well, welcome back to the Wendy Bell radio program. So whatever the psychological motivation is, and it's some narcissistic, craven desperation for attention or what have you, the idea of the firefighter arsonist is very prevalent today. A lot of people saying that there's a lot of smoke, a lot of fire. They've set the flames in motion. And then they expect to come around on the backside and be heralded the hero for dousing the flames. Well, we can look at what happened yesterday in Virginia. So they had this whole redistricting question, right? Do you agree that it's fair, right? The wording of this question in Virginia, asking people, do you want the redistricting of the Commonwealth to be done just for the next 4 years and we'll completely rig it so it's 10-1 Democrat representative versus Republican? Do you want us to do that, or do you like it the way it currently is? Very confusing question. Well, when we look at the answers, the way people responded to this question, votes cast in person in the Commonwealth of Virginia during early voting, 1.6%. The yes vote won. Yes, we want this redistricting. We want the Democrats to control all of the state. We want to pick up 4 seats in the House of Representatives. Yes votes won by 1.6%. Votes cast in person yesterday on election day, voters voted no by 9%. And then the votes that came in by mail voted yes on the redistricting to give the Democrats the huge advantage. The yes votes won by 45%. How do you vote in person and get a 9% no victory? How do you vote early in person and get a 1.6%? Yeah, we like that. And then all of a sudden get 45% that come in voting by mail. You guys, if there's not an example, if there's an example that's better than this of why mail in anything is dubious as at best, it's this case. CNN commentator Shermichael Singleton, he's on a panel yesterday with Scott Jennings, and they're talking about what ended up happening. Virginia approves heavily gerrymandered congressional map, and it's by about 3%, right? But the majority of the victory comes from those mail-in ballots you and I are supposed to believe are safe. Listen to Shermichael Singleton. He's like, look, I'm a conservative. I want my side to win. But this isn't the way we go about it. What's going on in our country? This isn't survivable. Listen.
This is not good for the country. Like, I'm a conservative. Hell yes, I want my side to do well. I strongly believe in my principles, and I presume Near here cares a lot about her side, and she wants to see Democrats do well. But how in the hell is this good for democracy when both sides believe there is no interest in incentivizing on anything? We don't have to compromise. We don't have to figure it out. We don't have to work things out, because you know what? We'll have one red state, one blue state. There will be no purple states. There will be no party in the middle. How does that move things forward when you look at the things that this country is currently struggling with on the economic front, the education front, healthcare? You have China, our greatest adversary, that are moving leaps and bounds ahead, and we can't even govern ourselves appropriately. This should make any person in this country happy about where we are.
So Texas did it, they said. Virginia punched back. That's what you get. Good for the goose, good for the gander, bad for America. Scott Jennings agrees. He's like, look, Virginia's redistricting was based on lies, and now they have the most unfair, lopsided map in America.
Virginia literally had the fairest maps in the nation. They had a 6-5 map, 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans. In terms of proportional representation, they had the fairest map in the nation that was drawn, by the way, by an independent commission that the voters asked for just a few years ago. Now they will have the least fair maps in the nation. And I'm not surprised that the yes vote won. They had all the money and all the lies. And sometimes in politics, when you got those two things, you can put something over the line. Even something as egregious as this whole thing has driven Spamberger's approval ratings down into the toilet. She lied to the people of Virginia. They had to write a ballot question that was a joke. They drew maps that were a joke. Now you're going to have huge chunks of rural Virginia represented by 5 or 6 Democrats who all live in Northern Virginia within about 15 miles of each other. It's a complete joke. Everybody knows it. And there's a reason that all these national Democrats and all their money came into Virginia, because, they don't really care about the people of Virginia. They just care about power.
They just care about power. Now, Brock, you had made mention that, what was it? How much did the Democrats spend on this measure?
I heard it was about $90 billion or $90 million.
$90 million from a Democrat national committee that does not have money, that had to take a loan. They had to get a loan to get through the 2024 stuff, ladies and gentlemen. $15 million. Kamala Blue, $1.4 billion. They are scrapping. They are scrambling. And now there's questions. Is this election to redistrict Virginia in such a wholly lopsided way, is it going to pass muster in the courts? While all of this is going on, what do you have happening in Virginia? A lot of crime, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to be talking about that. When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program, let's talk about the latest in Iran, what the president is looking at doing now, as apparently the rebels there aren't giving up. Next on the Wendy Bell radio program.
Okay, I'm going to pause that there. And again, folks, I sincerely apologize about the audio not coming through there on that first snippet. I could hear it in my headphones, but for some reason Rumble wasn't transmitting it out. I don't know. I don't know what causes that. I mean, it worked fine. This is another example where if you do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, that is insanity. But here I do the same thing over and over again and do get different results. So I'm not sure what that's all about. At any rate, let me click the Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from Wendy Bell Radio. I am following her channel. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here and let me copy the live chats into a comment. Okay. Yeah. Let me slide down here. Oh, there we go. All right, now there'll be a permanent part of this video because, as we all know, when the live stream is over, the live chats just kind of disappear. But the videos that I've shared with you tonight are videos that come directly from the producer. I have the links to the producer's videos. In fact, let me click on this to AP for Liberty to show you that, yep, I got the right video in the description box now, the right video link. Okay, and I've got the links to the producer's channel here if you want to go check out their channels and see what other information they have. And these videos that I've shared with you are videos that I've posted on Murtech.com, where I have over 40 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos, information that you're not going to receive from the lying legacy lamestream media. I'd like to share all of this with you, but unfortunately I just don't have the time to do so, and that's why I put together Murtech's Daily News Wrap-Up. We're going to have the video here from Wendy Bell, where we left off. We're going to start there. Same thing from Dan Bongino. Then I got an interesting video here from Dr. Steve Turley. You won't believe what Trump is doing about the Virginia referendum. So that sounds like some good stuff. American Center for Law and Justice, Anthony Bryan Logan, Black Conservative Perspective, McWater's Effect, News for Reasonable People, The Steve Gruber Show, On the Fringe, and we know X22 report. I got a ton of information. It says I have 24 videos here at about 10 or 11 hours worth of information. So don't miss this. But for right now, go ahead and take a break. Grab a cup of coffee and a donut or a sandwich and a soft drink or a beer. Or you can have a nice glass of wine with some cheese and meet me back here in about 15 or 20 minutes. And give me time to get this set up in Rumble. But in the meantime, before we break, let me go ahead and share some information here with you from MeWe. See what they have to say.
Ever feel like the phone is eavesdropping? That's because big tech treats every user's life like a corporate paycheck.
It's time to stop being the product. Millions are making the move to MeWe, the place where private connections and online communities actually thrive.
On MeWe, privacy is a human right, not a hidden setting. They don't track users, they don't sell personal data, and they truly believe in free speech. No shadow bans, just real conversations.
Join the 21 million people taking their digital lives back. Use code WELCOME2026 at checkout to grab 20% off MeWe Premium.
Okay, there you have it, folks. Again, I'll see you in about 15 or 20 minutes. Let me go ahead and get this set up, and we'll have some great information for you. So thank you again for being with me here. See you later, and may God bless.